The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Quirky Dog Podcast, inspired by some of the quirkiest dogs you can ever imagine, and the owners who love them. This podcast is brought to you by the quirky couple themselves, Scott and Jess Williams. Their aim is to educate and entertain. Here's Scott and Jess.
Welcome, guys, and happy Wednesday. We have a very special guest in store for you here today. We have one of the competitors of the American Ninja Warrior Season 12 episodes with us, and his name is Roo Yori. And Scott said, what is that short for? And I couldn't remember stupidly, but it's Andrew. I figured that out through my research. So Roo is here joining us today. Welcome, Roo. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Roo.
And
thanks for having me.
The quirky tip of the day, guys, is to watch this season 12 of something that seems like a little bit of normalcy in a time of 2020 for a change, and see our buddy Roo. And Roo does some really cool advocacy for Pitbulls that we're going to talk about here today. So what city are you coming to us from in Minnesota again? Rochester?
Yep, Rochester, Minnesota.
Sweet. And do you have a CrossFit there, or what's the deal?
Yeah, there's a number of them, actually. I go to CrossFit Progression.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where I work out mainly, so try to keep in shape. And fortunately, we're back to the gym with everything going on with the pandemic and stuff. You know, obviously restrictions and whatnot, but good to be back and doing some pull-ups again.
Are they making you wear a mask at the gym?
Yeah, we gotta wear a mask. We contain ourselves into our little squares, and then, you know, when we're working out, we don't necessarily have to, but we leave that spot, then yes, we do. And we're wiping everything down and trying to take precautions, but, keep moving forward.
Yeah, so. Seriously. How long did you have to take off with working out and stuff?
So we, Claire is my wife. We actually were working out at home as much as we could. I broke down and bought a pull-up bar to go over the doorway. You might be able to see it back there, right there.
Old school.
Got the video going. We're doing what we can at home, because I was hoping that American Ninja Warrior would eventually figure out something, but then, I kind of was really good at the beginning, as probably a lot of other people were, but then as the pandemic continued on and work got stressful and everything, I kind of faded off a little bit. But once I got that phone call that's saying, hey, we're good to go, I kind of tried to get back into shape real quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how is it different this year than normal? Because there's obviously changes with the whole competition setup with COVID also, right?
Yeah, there are no cities, basically. Like before, they'd go around the city, city to city, various ones, and you have your city qualifier, your city finals. This year, it was all filmed in St. Louis, which was one of the cities they were planning on. But so basically, we all converged on St. Louis, and they filmed a number of qualifier episodes there. And then instead of having like city qualifier, city finals, we're having just a qualifier episode. There's going to be 4 qualifier episodes, then the semifinals, and then a finals. And there's no Vegas finals this year, but they were able to do kind of a modified season this year just to still put something on. And, it was very different. We were all isolated when we were there and wearing masks and trying to, getting tested all the time and, trying to keep everybody safe and continue to still put on the show and, provide that for everybody to watch. And, it was fun. I'm glad I was able to be a part of it. It was pretty limited this year as far as competitors, and not as many competitors, not as many episodes, but it was a big production to pull everybody together and keep everybody safe. We were able to pull it off. Yeah,
I was frustrated that they didn't have the tryouts this year in Boston, because I was telling Jess before we came.
This was going to be his year. Oh my God, don't take anything he says seriously. And the adrenaline, I'm sure, is a little bit different too, because the whole vibe of the whole setup is different, right? I mean, without having all the bodies and stuff.
Yeah, there's no crowds. It was definitely a different atmosphere, different experience. In some ways, it was less to worry about though, because it was just competitors, it was just me. I didn't have to worry about it. Are my parents in line and all set?
Yeah.
How are the dogs doing? So I was able to focus a little bit more on the actual course itself. But at the same time, it's nice having the crowds there and cheering you on and being able to play that up a little bit. So I miss that for sure because you draw some energy there. But and it was different in the course. So typically, if you hit a buzzer, you move on regardless.
Okay.
But this year it was top 12 move on, regardless of if more people hit a buzzer. So you could actually hit a buzzer and not move on if more than 12 people hit a buzzer in your qualifying course. So it was a little bit different strategy too. I had to kind of weigh the fact that you want to go fast, but if you go too fast, you're going to fall. But you needed to worry about that speed component. Otherwise,
you're not
even if you finish the course, you might not be moving on.
Yeah. So how many years, what season will this be for you personally, being a part of American Ninja Warrior?
This is my 5th season, which is crazy.
That's awesome.
I mean, my rookie season was back in 2016 in season 8. Had a really good year that year. And fortunately, they've been calling me back ever since. So I'm really feel pretty grateful for that, and going to continue to do it as long as my body can, and they keep calling me back. So
yeah, you're going to be like the Tom Brady of the Midwest.
I'll do my best.
Have you had any injuries over the past 5 years with all this stuff? Because I know the CrossFit is pretty hard on the body. It's you can pull something.
Yeah, you got to be smart about it. I think actually it's funny because I typically tend to get less injuries from CrossFit than I do from Ninja Warrior. So I think there's some
crazy
prejudice
stuff
there, but I've had American Ninja Warrior is pretty tough on your shoulders. All the swinging, all the launching yourself from one apparatus to another and catching yourself with that force. When I very first started out, I actually didn't really know what I was doing and wasn't very safe in my training. And I got a really bad concussion because I flipped off the bar and landed on my head. And I was out for probably a good 9 months, actually, trying to recover with some good post-concussive symptoms. So, I mean, it's not the safest of sports, but at the same time, if you're smart about it, you're fine. From that point forward, I make sure to have crash pads underneath me instead of concrete floor.
Yeah, 9 months.
That helps.
9 months is a long time.
What's that?
9 months is a long time, I said.
Yeah. It was definitely a road to recovery. So it was about 6 months where I didn't do anything, and then I found out that some light aerobic activity kind of helped recover from concussions, and so I started doing some rowing, and that started leading back into some other stuff. And it was kind of nice because not nice, but that was the year that we found out that Wallace was sick, actually, which I'm sure we'll get into, but so it kind of forced me to spend some time with some dogs, and before they weren't around anymore. So it was kind of a silver lining in that aspect. But it was tough for me because I've always been active, so when you go from kind of higher caliber athlete to not being able to go shopping without having to stand in the middle of the aisle trying to regain your balance, it definitely changes some perspective. Yeah,
it's a little bit humbling. So talk us through this, because when was your big Frisbee days? I know I'm supposed to say disc, but I don't come along with the times as I'm supposed to. So when was your heyday in relation to, I feel like I was involved early 2000s, and then what was your time frame there?
Yeah, so we got Wallace in 2005. So that's when I started, and that's when I learned about Frisbee stuff and started getting into it. We had a pretty good couple years there. We won the Sinosport World Championships in 2006. We won the Incredible Dog Challenge in 2007. And then I continued to compete in 2008, 2009, 2010, I think, just kind of more sporadically. But I was involved between 2005 to 2011 or so. Yeah,
and he was, for those of you who don't know Wallace is a very famous pit bull. You can even go to Wallace, the Pitbull Foundation, to learn more about him. But he really started Roo on this whole path for pitbull advocacy and rescue advocacy, and got involved with Hector and everything else. So tell us a little bit about your pitbull segue here, and then we'll try to tie it all together.
Yeah, my wife and I were kind of involved with rescue dogs, and she was working at a shelter. I was volunteering there. And I never really bought into the stereotypes, if you will. I think there's good dogs and bad dogs of all kinds. And just like with each other, we shouldn't really judge each other by what we look like and where we came from. Dogs are emotional creatures, and kind of same goes for them. So we fought for Wallace because he was going to be put down, largely due to what he looked like. But at the same time, he was definitely not an angel either.
Yeah.
He was a lot of dog.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing well in the shelter. He was causing trouble. But we thought that maybe get him out of that stressful environment. Maybe he would calm down a little bit, and we could find him a home. Didn't necessarily pan out like that. He was still a lot of dog even when, he was in our house, but we found out he liked to play Frisbee, and that actually kind of focused that energy. And I had no idea that the sport even existed, but, I found a bunch of videos online and thought, hey, this looks kind of cool. And I just started messing around with him, and it just clicked, for both of us. Wallace loved playing fetch. He's just a natural to that. And then it allowed me to kind of bring in some of my athletic ability with, the disc throws, and I would actually jump over Wallace instead of having Wallace jump over me, try to add a little flair to it. And like I said, just clicked, and we had a blast, and nobody else was going to adopt him. So I was having too much fun with him myself. So we ended up adopting him. And like you said, our success and the fact that he was kind of novel because, most of the time it's border collies, cattle dogs, Australian shepherds out there on the disc field. But I'm walking out there with this pit bull that's challenging them all for the top spot. And it was pretty cool. So, it was a fun ride. Nice. And super proud of what we did. And Wallace was just an awesome dog.
How old was he when you guys rescued him?
Yeah, he was probably a couple years old, I think. So he was pretty young, maybe like 2 or so.
Yeah. We had an obstruction episode a few weeks ago, and I didn't say it on the air live, but the girl that we interviewed was one of our previous clients, and I was telling her about, didn't he swallow a spatula or do something crazy at some point?
yeah, he did. I forget about that.
It was like a whole spatula, right?
Yeah. So, and that was right before. So that was 2008 because we had won the Incredible Dog Challenge the year before. So we were gearing up. We're like, all right, we're going to go back and defend our title. No other dog has won it back to back. I'm getting all ready to go, and then, he was at a underwater treadmill session, because we just like to keep him in shape, and that was good for his joints and stuff. And they were luring him with, I think, some cheese or something on one of those baking spatulas, the kind of the silicone type.
Yeah, rubbery.
And instead of licking it, he just grabbed the spatula and that rubber part popped off of the handle and he swallowed it. And I'm just and it was like a week or two before we were supposed to leave. And we tried to actually go in with a scope, but it was too thick to be able to cut and pull back out. So, and I was worried that he wouldn't be able to actually pass it. So it was we ended up having to go into surgery, and we couldn't compete that year, but I figured, I want to make sure he gets out of this, and some things are a little more important. But so we didn't do that. And I think he actually got more press doing that than if we would have won. There was a headline, Pitbull not able to compete in national championships because he ate a spatula. The Associated Press picked it up and it went all over the place. It was crazy.
Well, it was an expensive preventative treatment or whatever you want to call it, appointment there, I guess.
Hope you got a couple of free treadmill sessions out of that.
Yeah.
All right, so tell us about...
Wallace kind of did his own thing.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Kind of par for the course.
That's for sure. Before we talk about Hector, I do just want to say Wallace was an incredible athlete, and he was a super great pit bull, but your control over him was so important for the breed. And I really appreciate all you do with that, he was always very polite in public, and you were always very thoughtful with him with other animals, and you were very conscientious as a trainer, and you did a great job with your relationship to kind of show the world, hey, if you're going to own a pit bull, no matter how they act, you should own it responsibly, any dog really.
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of my point. It's dogs, I've always thought dogs don't really understand our social rules, right? If you want to get kind of deep into it, they have their social rules, but we have ours, and we're expecting them to live in our world, and so it's my responsibility as Wallace's person and human to make sure that not only everybody else is safe, but he is safe because he behaves himself. So, I took that pretty seriously, obviously, because also had the level that, Pitbulls were kind of seen and being looked at even more closely. So I thought it was even more important for that to be the case. And fortunately, Wallace made it easy on the Frisbee field to let his actions speak for themselves. And he did just that.
Yeah. So did you guys have Hector and Wallace at the same time?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So tell us about Hector and that whole story and the whole Michael Vick stuff and all that.
Yeah, so it was actually 2007, the year that we won the Incredible Dog Challenge, was the same year Vic got arrested for dog fighting. And so I had seen the impact that Wallace had on people that were watching him play Frisbee, and people that were scared of Pitbulls would watch him play Frisbee, and I wouldn't even have to say anything. They'd want to come up and meet him. And it was pretty obvious that, it was that positive experience that were changing their minds. And I knew that just because of who Vic was, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this situation. I was like, even if one of those dogs, could maybe be deemed adoptable and given the chance, maybe we'll learn something. And fortunately, a number of them were. And just because of us being out there with Wallace already, I figured, hey, I'm kind of doing it as we are with Wallace, and let's give one of them a shot. And we reached out to one of the rescues, and they settled on Hector, and it seemed to be a good fit. And Hector was awesome, completely different than Wallace. Not necessarily a Frisbee dog, or not necessarily an athlete. He ended up becoming a certified therapy dog. And we'd go around to nursing homes and hospitals and do a lot of dog bite prevention with schools and that kind of stuff, just because his temperament was so solid. But yeah, he was an incredible dog. And he unfortunately passed away relatively early, about a year after Wallace, actually, even though he was a couple years younger. I think his past life kind of caught up with him. But incredible dog, super proud that we were able to give him that opportunity and give him that life outside of what he originally was experiencing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then now you and Claire, the pit bull that you have is Johnny, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, and so those are your three big pit bulls am I including everybody?
Yep, those are the three. Yeah, those are three pit bulls.
Johnny's sweatshirt, one of the links that we have here is rooyori.com, and there's this Shopify site where you can support him with a bunch of cool pit bull swag. I have one of Wallace's old shirts on. We're trying to get this design back, but there's a ton of other stuff, including the shirt that Roo's wearing here today. But the Johnny sweatshirt is so cool. Who did that artwork?
Yeah, that was actually through Bonfire. Bonfire, they do like t-shirt campaigns. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I saw, I think it was Pitbull Advocates of America now. They had a sugar skull with one of their dogs, and I'm like, that's cool. And so I thought Johnny kind of has a unique eye and a unique ear. So I thought we could do a sugar skull based on him, but still obviously be identified as Johnny, but have that cool sugar skull incorporated into it. So I did that for season 11 for the first time, and I love the shirt. And repeating it this year too, because I liked it so much.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to be ordering this week for sure. So were you doing fitness stuff when you were doing Frisbee, and were you a gymnast? What was your origin from all this to get to all the CrossFit Ninja stuff? And then tell everyone how the Pitbull advocacy and the athletic stuff ties together, so we can kind of seam this all together so people understand.
Sure. I've always been an athlete my entire life. My main sport was soccer.
Yeah,
actually.
I remember
so I've
that
been
now.
playing soccer since I was 4 years old, all the way through college.
That's why you kicked the Frisbee so darn well.
Yeah. And, enjoyed other sports. I've always enjoyed playing lots of other sports as well. And, when you get out of college, then you enter the real world. I continued to play soccer in city leagues and that kind of stuff. But Josh Grinnell, actually, he was the one who found CrossFit. Okay. And he was the one who got me into Frisbee. And in the off season, we would kind of work out together. And so we were during the winter time up here in Minnesota, when we can't play Frisbee with our dogs all that much. We still did every now and then, but we went into the gym and we were kind of teaching ourselves this weird thing called CrossFit. And it was
That's awesome. Does Josh own a CrossFit now? He
actually is the owner of the gym that I work out at now. And so that's kind of a cool connection there. And he's been able to create an incredible community there. And, and then it I think just my athletic ability worked well with Frisbee. Like I said, I think especially the freestyle, when you're trying to figure out all the different tricks that you can do with your dog. And I think it's a really team-based activity there. And so I enjoyed it. And I was like, I enjoyed learning all the different ways to throw the Frisbee, all the different ways that I could run around the field with Wallace as well. And then when Wallace was, older and he got cancer and he was slowing down, I didn't have that activity anymore. And then actually when him and both Wallace and Hector passed away, the advocacy that I was doing with the dogs suffered in my mind because I couldn't have the same impact without them there. Yeah. Right. So if I was going to be invited to events, they wanted Wallace, they wanted Hector. Like when they're not there, they don't want some, who knows, I'm just the guy holding the leash, right?
Yeah.
It's like I lost the MVP of the team, if you will. And, and it was just, I didn't know how to have that same impact as I couldn't make Frisbee videos, with Wallace anymore. Yeah. I couldn't go to more events with Hector to have people meet him and that kind of stuff. And so I was looking for how do I continue to advocate with hopefully, the same impact, or at least maybe create something else or continue to reach different circles, which is, I think, what Wallace and Hector always did, is they kind of reached outside of the typical circles to kind of expose more people to the situation and to the cause, if you will. And then I saw American Ninja Warrior on TV, and it has absolutely nothing to do with dogs whatsoever. But I thought, hey, it looks kind of cool. And but I noticed that they would highlight the backstories of some of the people, right, that they would feature. And I was like, what if I got actually chosen to be on the show? What if I did well enough and that they actually featured me and featured the story of Wallace and Hector, even though they're not here? And, we could kind of represent for all the other dogs that are still sitting in shelters all across the country, like right now, so it's, and so I said, what the heck? I threw my hat, my name in the ring, and fortunately got chosen and did well. And 5 years later, I'm still doing it. It's kind of crazy, but, there wasn't necessarily another competitor at that time that was really taking that angle as far as the storyline, and so it fit well with me, on a number of levels. And, it fit well with the show because it offered a new angle for them. And, I'm just, riding the wave right now, and hopefully like I said, my body keeps up, and hopefully they keep liking me, so they keep calling me back.
Yeah. Did you come up with the Canine Ninja, or was that the show?
I did that. So yeah, I was heading into my first season, and one of the other guys that I was training with, he was on the show previously. He's like, a lot of people have a nickname. What's your nickname going to be? And he's like, initially they're like, oh, Pitbull Ninja, or something like that. And I was like, and I love Pitbulls, but I also have a lot of other dogs too. And so they're just been rescue dogs. And so I was like, I don't want to completely narrow myself just to Pitbulls because, I want it. I'm a dog guy. I just happen to have Pitbulls that are really well known, but I got Angus, who's a black lab mix. I have Ajax, who is who knows what mix. Right now we have Juju, who's a little 3-legged corgi mix from a reservation, so I was like, I like the Canine Ninja better. It kind of sounds cooler, kind of broadens that out a little bit, and kind of gives me a bigger platform.
Yeah, so. That's awesome. And Angus, you guys met up, you and Clara met Angus's relative at one of the events or something one year, right?
Yeah, that was crazy. So our first season, I think it was our first season. I totally forgot about this a little bit.
I'm really going back into the vault today.
Yeah. So Angus was adopted from a shelter here, and he was part of a litter. And there was somebody who had actually moved away from Rochester that had watched American Ninja Warrior and saw Angus on the show. And then so she contacted me and said, hey, we used to live in Rochester. I think I actually adopted Angus's brother. And this was years after, I think it was, Angus was old at this point. And sure enough, we kind of put the pieces together, and it was an A litter. So I can't remember what they renamed him Jake. I can't remember what his, but we kept Angus. And so, yeah, and I ended up driving out to New York to actually have a little reunion of the long lost Black Lab brothers. And it was great. She was
Black Labs matter.
It was a good time. Had a little road trip with Angus, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Well, as far as people go in Minnesota, if anybody lives in Minnesota and you run into Roo and Josh and their wives, they're probably the 4 fittest people in the state. It's very threatening to even see them through Facebook. But we wish you the best of luck in this season. And you have a book too on Wallace, right?
Yep. Yeah, that was just called Wallace. And you can find that through WallacePitbullFoundation.org. We have autographed versions of it actually through that. Otherwise, you can find it on Amazon and whatnot as well. Yeah,
that's so awesome. But what Roo has done with this whole collaboration is raising money for rescue, basically. I mean, that's what you're trying to do, is raise money for these dogs that you're advocating for and everything else. So the first link here, the pledgeit.org/Ninja for Dogs 2020. If you guys even can just donate a small amount, anything helps. And Roo has been doing this now, and you've been helping in a way that probably far greater impact than you ever imagined, really.
Absolutely, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought learning how to play Frisbee with a pit bull would lead to all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, well, Wallace was incredible. You were fun to watch too. Everybody thought I was cool doing the splits until you went on the field and jumped 20 feet up in the air, and then my my novelty wore off quickly.
But I was going to say, it's nice that Wallace found an owner that had the athletic ability where you could both enjoy each other like that. We have one client. That woman that's a big runner, she got that pit bull, really high energy pit bull.
Oh, yeah.
And the dog would not do well in anybody else's home. But she is a big runner, and she took that dog with her all the time, and they're just a great pair. They just work out really well.
Yeah, we had the dog in. We had the dog in for training, and we had motorized treadmills and unmotorized treadmills, and you could put that dog on the unmotorized treadmill for 20 minutes, and she just loved that thing. She'd be on there for 3 hours, So we were we saw her early on when the lady first rescued her, and we said she's a lot of dog. But that's true. I'd say 5 years later, they run every day together, and they have similar energy levels. So it's important to match that. But no matter the dog you get, you still have to make them a responsible citizen, and you did a very good job of that with Wallace.
Yep, for sure. Thank you.
All right. Well, you guys watch season 12 for sure. Please check out Roo's links. Again, if you can just donate a small amount, that would help so much. And Roo, thank you so much. Good luck in season 12. You're a badass. Scott's gonna flex next week. We'll compare.
Next year, I'm gonna be trying out.
Bye, guys. Keep it quirky. Thanks again, Roo.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.